How's it going, YouTube? I'm Elaine Esposito, and welcome back to another Most Amazing Top 10 video. I am sitting here today to film this video because I just got back from the hospital with my dad. He's doing okay. He's actually, I don't know. It's tiring standing up all day at the hospital, so I'm sitting for this video. So if you guys like our videos, make sure to hit the like button. Let's see if we can get us to 10,000 likes. I know we can do it. We've done it before. Okay, so a coma is a state of deep unconsciousness, usually caused by severe brain injury. It can last for days, years, or even decades. So today we're going to be talking about the top 10 people in the longest comas. Starting off this list, number 10 with Karen Ann Quinlan, who was in a coma for 10 years. When she was just 21 years old, she became unconscious after she took a strong sedative with alcohol. She was on an intensive diet and she ended up being in a coma. She suffered from an irreversible brain damage when she went into respiratory failure, and over the next few months, her condition continued to get worse. Her parents requested that she should be disconnected from her ventilator because they believed that her daughter was suffering, but hospital officials denied their request. After a long legal battle, they were able to remove her from the ventilator when she later died from pneumonia complications. Next up at number 9, we have a tragic case. A 19-year-old woman's life changed when she swerved off the road and crashed into a tree. She injured her brain and fell into a coma that lasted over a decade. She was being fed by a tube, and just like that, 10 years of her life passed by. Things get even worse. Doctors discovered that her belly had been growing bigger, so they ran a bunch of tests and determined that she was pregnant. A staff member had raped her, and while she was in a nursing home, her parents decided to continue with the pregnancy because they believed their daughter would have kept the baby. Now at number 8, we have John Alcock, who was in a coma for 14 years. This policeman was involved in a tragic car accident that caused him to suffer from a severe brain injury that left him in a coma. His girlfriend continued to take care of him and never stopped believing that one day he might wake up. Sadly, he died at the age of 54 years old after being in a coma for 14 years. Number 7 brings us to Terri Schiavo. She suffered from a heart attack that caused a severe lack of oxygen and brain damage, which left her in an irreversible persistent vegetative state. Her husband argued that she would have wanted to be kept artificially alive if there was no chance of recovery, so he petitioned to have her feeding tube removed. Her parents intervened, and this quickly escalated to a very controversial legal battle that has been taken to the Supreme Court. However, after 15 years of being in a coma with no chance of improvement, her feeding tube was removed by orders of a judge and she died peacefully. A car crash victim comes up next at number 6. An unidentified car crash victim was left in a coma for 15 years. But since then, he has showed signs of life after a nerve simulator was implanted into his chest by neurosurgeons. He was able to follow an object with his eyes and turn his head upon request. This is absolutely amazing. There are still so much to learn about the brain, so this study will shed a lot of light on comatose victims. Agnes Keane moves into number 5. This poor woman went into a coma after she delivered her twin daughters in 1983. She stayed in this unresponsive state for 19 years until she died in 2002. Her husband attempted to sue the hospital for malpractice because they failed to treat an existing condition that led to her coma and eventual death. Moving into number 4, we're talking about Sunny Von Bulow, who was in a coma for a staggering 28 years. Back in the 1980s, she was the subject of a highly talked about criminal case. Her husband was accused of trying to kill her with an overdose of insulin, which sent her into a coma. He was later acquitted of all crimes. Sunny remained in a persistent vegetative state until her death from a cardiopulmonary arrest in 2008. Elaine Esposito comes in at number 3. When she was 6 years old, she was taken to the hospital after she suffered from a ruptured appendix. She underwent surgery, but she never woke up after being put under anesthesia. Over the next 3 decades, Elaine survived numerous of other conditions, such as another abnormal surgery, pneumonia, the measles, and a collapsed lung. She died 37 years later, and she was removed from the respirator. Next up, number 2, we're talking about Edwarda O'Bara, who was in a coma for 42 years. She was only 16 years old when she fell into a diabetic coma in 1970. Before she went unconscious, her last words to her mother were, "Promise you won't leave me." Her mother kept her promise and never left her daughter's bedside. She was kept alive by artificial machines, where she stayed in a comatose state for 42 years until she died. Coming into number 1, we have Aruna Shanbaug. She was a nurse from India who was sexually assaulted and strangled with a metal chain. She was left in a permanent vegetative state for 42 years until she died of pneumonia. She had been kept alive by a feeding tube until she died of natural causes. The man who raped her was sentenced to 7 years in prison, which I don't think is enough time for the type of crime committed. Well, there you guys have it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.